Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please join us today. Today we'll be studying Srimad Bhagavatam, 12th Canto, Chapter 1, the Dynasties of Kali-yuga. The Degraded Dynasties of Kali-yuga. Hare Krishna. Please join us for the Jai Radha Madhava prayers. Krishna, dear devotees, please join us for Mangalacharan prayers together. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiriyet Shavatam Swar Katha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto He Bhadrani Vidunoti Suhasatam Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavate Sevya Bhagavate Ruttam Shloke. The next king, Hare Krishna. Please join us in the recitation of the first two verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, 12th canto, chapter 1. So 12th canto is very small canto, just 13 chapters, yet at the same time very, very profound chapters where we learn the symptoms of this age and how we can stay stable and take shelter at the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. Please join us for the recitation. Together we'll recite Srimad Bhagavatam, 12th canto, chapter 1, verse 1 and 2. Sheshaka uvacha Yo anyatha puranjayo nama bhavishyo bhara hridartha tasmatmajastu shonako hatva swaminam atmajam pradyot samgyam rajanam karta yat palakah sutah Vishakyupas tato putro bhavita rajakas. Translation by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Shukdev Goswami said, the last king mentioned in our previous enumeration of the future rulers of the Magadha dynasty was Puranjaya, who will take birth as the descendant of Brihadrath. Puranjaya's minister Shunaka will assassinate the king and install his own son, Pradyota, on the throne. The son of Pradyot will be Palak, his son will be Vishakyupa, and his son will be Rajak. Hare Krishna. Please join us for Guru Pranati together. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Om Ajnana Timrandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripa tadaham vande Shri Gurum Dīnataranam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So, in the previous canto, the last chapter was the disappearance of Lord Sri Krishna. And this reference came in the very first canto, where the sages at Naimisharanya inquire from Sutta Goswami that after Lord Krishna has left, whose shelter can we take in this Kali age, the age of ignorance and darkness? Because the religion has lost its 6 legs and only the 4th leg was there, but it was also getting beaten up by Kali, who was appearing as a Shudra king. So the form of Kali, as Parikshit Maharaj saw, was that of a Shudra king. He was dressed like a king, but he was actually a Shudra. And he was hitting with his club the 4th leg of Dharma, religion, who was appearing as bull. And Mother Earth was appearing as cow. So both were being tormented. So you can imagine the coming of Kali age. And Parikshit Maharaj had gone immediately to chastise this Kali. And at that time, Kali took shelter of Parikshit Maharaj. And the duty of a Kshatriya is, when one takes a shelter, then you should provide them the proper shelter and give them protection. So Parikshit Maharaj at that time said, okay, you have to, go away doing all this business that you are engaged in. And you should engage, you can live here, but only at these places. So what are the places Parikshit Maharaj told him to stay? Where there is illicit sex going on, where there is meat eating going on, where there is intoxication going on, where there is gambling going on. So these were the 4 places Kali was allowed. So the 4 places were place where intoxication is going on, where gambling is going on, illicit sex is going on, and meat eating is going on. So these are the 4 places Parikshit Maharaj said that you can reside. Now Kali said that, my dear Lord, King Parikshit, Maharaj Parikshit, these are very limited places in your kingdom. Everyone is so righteous that I cannot find even a place to live. So give me one more place which is not so limited in your kingdom. And so by providence, by the influence of Yogamaya, Parikshit Maharaj said you can also reside in gold, because gold is not limited, it's found at good places as well as bad places. Now that's where Kali got a chance to influence us. So when we handle currency, we can understand we have to be very, very careful, because that's where Kali is present and can invoke greed in our heart, anartha. It's a big anartha. Lust, anger and greed, these are the 3 gates to hell. So we have to be very, very careful. And now, with then Parikshit Maharaj, after this incident, he is going through the jungle, he is very thirsty. And he reaches Shamika Rishi's ashram, right? And because he's looking for water, he's very thirsty. It's a hot summer day. And he has been out for a long time. He didn't plan to be out for so long. And there, when he enters the ashram, the hut of Rishi Shamika, he sees Rishi in meditation. But he is upset because he is the king and Rishi Shamika has not taken care to offer him arghya, water for reception. That's what arghya means. Sometimes in deity worship, people ask, what this arghya is? And sometimes people say, oh, it's just the water you sprinkle on your head. But actually, it is fragrant water provided to the guests when they enter a house so that they can wash their face, hands and so forth, right? Padya is a different water where, in the old times, even today, people go to the villages and they have this hand pump near the outside in the veranda or a small tap where you wash your feet. And when you enter temple, you also see, there's a tap to wash your feet before you enter. So that's the Padya area. So again, to clean our feet. Now here, Parikshit Maharaj, he's upset. And he says, oh, he's acting so dull, I will reward him accordingly. He picks up a dead snake and put it around the neck of Shamika Rishi, who is still in meditation. Even after the dead snake has been placed around his neck, he is not disturbed. He is in deep meditation, meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, seeing this, Shringi, the son of Shamika Rishi, who was a very powerful Brahman boy, he said that, look at these Kshatriyas, that they have forgotten the Vedic injunction and they are acting in this way. The first fall down where the influence of Kali age was that of this Brahman boy, who cursed Parikshit Maharaj to die in 7 days. And when, and as soon as he gave that curse, because he wanted to show his prowess in front of his friends, right? In the influence of his friends, he did that. But when he returned home and Shamika Rishi, he looked at his son, the son was feeling guilty. That, for the show of purpose, he did this. He made this curse. And now he broke into tears. And he told his father that, king came and he saw, that you did not welcome him. So he put a dead snake around your neck. So I gave him this curse. Now, Shringi's curse is powerful. Shamika Rishi knows. So he immediately, feels compassionate towards the king and he informs the king. He sends a messenger informing King Parikshit that, such and such curse has been given. So that if Parikshit Maharaj wants, he can ward off the effect of that curse. He could easily do that. Yet at the same time, Parikshit Maharaj took it as order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he agreed with the will of the Lord and he gave up his kingdom and he went to the bank of at the Ganges. So now the Ganges are referred to, Jiva Goswami revealed, is Yamuna, right, in Delhi. So Yamuna and Ganga, when they meet at Sangam, from that point onward, personalities in Vedic scriptures, they have referred to Yamuna as Ganges as well. Yes, so that is an important aspect. Now here, that is the influence of Kali age already coming in. And now that Lord Krishna has left at the, at Naimisharanya, the great sages, the sages are asking Sutta Goswami at that time, this secret is revealed. Krishne sadhamo padyate dharma jnana divi saha kalo nashta drishamesha puranarko adhunodita. So, this Bhagavad Puran, Srimad Bhagavatam, is as brilliant as sun, which has arisen just after the departure of Lord Sri Krishna to his personal abode, along with knowledge, religion, and so forth, all the great auspicious qualities of this, of this world. And persons who have lost their vision will attain light from this Puran. So how would people lose their vision? They would lose because of the darkness caused by ignorance. They will lose their vision because of the influence of Kali in this age. And that's why Srila Prabhupada, when he established, one of the aspects is, part of initiation is to follow 4 regulative principles, which are called yam, not to do. And then one is niyam, which is regulated, principle that needs to be followed. So, no meat eating, right? No intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling. So these are the 4 regulative principles, and then minimum 16 rounds every day. So that's the minimum. 16 rounds of chanting of the holy name on the beads, on Tulsi beads. So japa, it is also called japa because when it is done in meditative mood, you are not calling out loudly. You are just meditating. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So at every bead, you count that and then, you come back. So that way you do 16 rounds of japa. However, this gold influence is still there. So sometimes people ask, okay, you took care of those 4 aspects. Now what about the gold aspect? How do you refrain that? Well, gold is Lakshmi, right? And where is Lakshmi most stable? In the service of Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna. So whatever we have should be engaged in service of Lord Sri Krishna and accept whatever is the remnants as prasad. And you should not be greedy, because that's another factor. When we perform devotional service, we should not perform it with the intention of getting fruitive results. So we should be doing it as, to satisfy, to please Lord Sri Krishna. That should be the thought. And we should refrain from being greedy, refrain from being angry, refrain from being lusty, right? Lust, anger, and greed are the 3 gates of hell. Lord Krishna reveals in Bhagavad Gita. And pride is the pavement, right? Is the path that's paved to reach any of these 3 gates. So here, it has been identified that, Puranjaya was the king. He was the 20th king when we talked about the Sun Dynasty and Moon Dynasty in 9th canto. So he was killed by his own minister. So that's another influence. And he was killed by his own minister, Shunaka. And Shunaka, placed his own son on the throne. And this is where we start seeing the influence of Kali age coming. So we talked about, like Parikshit Maharaj definitely experienced the, ill effects, the bad omens. Yudhishthira Maharaj observed the bad omens. Lord Krishna, observing the bad omens, told the residents at Dwarka that it's time to go back home indirectly at Sudharma Assembly Hall, as we talked about last time. So in this chapter, now one of the interesting thing is, Shukdev Goswami is talking about future, what is going to happen. So sometimes people get bewildered because he is saying that the last king we talked about, Puranjaya, who will take birth as a descendant of Brihadrata. So everything is being spoken now onward in future tense, right? He is doing Bhavishyavani, right? His voice is revealing what is going to happen in the future, in, as per the time. So this is all going to happen after Parikshit Maharaj, leaves the planet. And he is identifying various characteristics of different type of kings. So here, in 12th canto, let me give you a quick summary as to what are the important aspects that are going to be covered in the 12th canto, the 13 chapters that we are going to look at. He's going to talk, he's predicting, it's said predicting, but actually he is, by the potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is Trikalagya. He knows past, present, and future. So he is revealing the future. That the kings of the earth, when they appear in the future, in the age of Kali, because of the influence of this Kali age, they will be fallen and they will not be able to perform their prescribed duties, Kshatriya Dharma. And that is because of the influence and the way they would be, acting. They will become greedy, they will become lusty, wanting to enjoy others' properties, even others' wives, and so forth. So he gives the description of the numerous faults of this age. And later on, he also identifies that because the kings are so fallen, Mother Earth, she again derides them of the necessity of life, right? And thinking that these foolish orders, they are perpetually trying to conquer her because they are fighting amongst each other. She causes that. And Mother Nature also reacts in this manner. She responds in this manner, so that all these kings, they are fighting with each other and not having any satisfaction, constantly living in anxiety. When they have big land, then they are anxious that someone can take part of it. They have small land, then they are thinking that someone who has a larger land, greater army can attack them and take away whatever they have. And then he talks about the 4 varieties of material annihilation. So that's also he gives. And he gives a final advice to Maharaj Parikshit. And then Maharaj Parikshit is bitten by the snake bird, right? Takshak. And then he leaves the world. So it's very interesting. Takshak happens to be friend of Lord Indra. And he is son of Kadru. Takshak has, there are about 1,000 of his 999 of his Nag brothers are there. Ananta Shesh is the eldest one. Vasuki is there. Now we're talking about Takshak, and then Kaliya is there. They're all brothers, and they're all residing in Nagalok and also at Indraprasth area. Previously he used to live, where Arjun, he removed the Khandava forest where Takshak used to live, and he had to fight. Arjun had to fight with Indradev. And that was the first time in a duel scenario, Lord Kṛṣṇa became Arjun's charioteer. So it was the first time that he became. Second time it was at Kurukshetra. So it is very interesting. Now, in this particular chapter, basically it is identify how people are falling down. And, and the sages at Namashirana hearing this from Sutta Goswami. And everyone is wondering that what is, the shelter for the living entities? How can we be happy at such times where the administrators have become rogues and thugs, right? And it is a very sorry state for the citizens, because again and again it has been identified that the citizens are constantly being tormented, their property taken away, they are being tortured in this very life, while they are relying on these administrators in this Kali age to provide them the necessities and to provide them support to advance spiritually. But that support has gone away. So what happens? And there's some wonderful examples being also given that how we should recognize them. So I'm reminded of Alexander the Great, right? He went on this rampage of conquering the world. All the way he came to India, and then Chandragupta Maurya defeated him, right? And then he fell sick across Sindhu, on the bank of Sindhu, he is falling sick, Indus River, Sindh River. And there he is calling the Vaidyas and says, I can give you the gold of the world, just increase my lifespan by a few days. And they're saying, no, we cannot, even if you give the goal of the whole world, the universe, we cannot increase your life even by a second. So he comes to know of cruel reality, that he was chasing a mirage. People chase mirage in their lives. He just wanted his name. And today if you go, Alexander the Great, where his kingdom used to be, the capital, that place is smaller than a town. There is hardly anything left. Yet at the same time, people become fascinated by such kings. And Alexander the Great, once a thief, he was stealing some of the reserve that they had. So he was brought in front of Alexander. And so Alexander said, you are a thief, so you should be punished. So the thief challenged him. He said, I'm a small thief, you are a big thief. I'm stealing little property of someone, you are stealing big property of someone. That is your state. So Alexander meditated on that response and he let go of the thief because he agreed, right? In the heart of heart, he knew that he is trying to take over others' property without really knowing how to administer it, to help the citizens advance spiritually. He was not interested in that. He was just interested in winning. That's the case like that lady who is using the quarter to put in the Coke vending machine and then pressing the button, the Coke's coming out, she's collecting, and then she's putting another coin. She's asking others to give her more coin, and people are thinking, okay, she must be taking it for a party or something. After she has taken like 50 some cans, the gentleman behind her asks, ma'am, how many are you going to take? When will we get chance? Her response is, don't you see I'm winning? Because in her mind, she was at a slot machine. She was thinking, I'm winning. Every time putting a quarter, pressing the button, a Coke can comes out, putting it together. She's winning in her mind. So that is exactly what happened to Alexander the Great. He was just seeking win without realizing what is the purpose of all this winning. Do I have the qualification to administer? When Prachitas were asked by their father Prachin Bharhi that you are going to be the ruler, so you should become qualified. So they went on to perform meditation. How many years meditation did they perform? 10,000 years. And they got the instructions from none other than Lord Mahadev, Lord Shiva. So this is also very instructive that, Mahajana Yatha Panta. So we follow the footsteps of Mahajana, which means we take the instructions of the devotees of Lord Sri Krishna, the great devotees, the pure devotees of Lord Sri Krishna. And we follow that path. We follow those instructions with our heart, with gratitude, with humility, understanding that this is a great benediction we have received. Another case came when Alexander was near the northern India side and Porus was there, right? And we all know about the story where Porus was defeated because his enemy Indian king, he joined the camp of Alexander and told him how to fight with Porus. And when Alexander asked Porus how he should be treated, Porus' response was, like a king treats another king. So Alexander, understanding that this is a very valiant king, he's fearless. So Porus he had that Kshatriya spirit. Alexander, he understood, I cannot defeat him, because he was not really winning over the land. He was actually spreading his fear. His greatness was if another person is lower than him. That was his mindset. So when he saw that he cannot defeat Porus, because Porus is standing tall, so he said, okay, made him his friend. And this is a similar attitude we saw when Jarasandha, he married his 2 daughters to Kṛṣṇa, because he understood that he cannot defeat Kṛṣṇa. Kṛṣṇa is too powerful for me. He defeated Kuvalpediya elephant, single-handedly. So this is the attitude. When you cannot win over your enemy, you befriend them. So that is also one of the policy that he used. Yet at the same time, without knowing the purpose, why is he on this great mission to conquer the world? He was just doing it. Now another story of which Kshatriya spirit. So I'm telling you, even in this Kali age, there is Kshatriya spirit. So some of those examples, like Porus showed that Kshatriya spirit. Alexander, he used the Kutniti and whatever the suitable technique he could to befriend a Kshatriya king, because he said that this guy is a Kshatriya, he will come very handy one day. The story is at the time of Britishers, they were being attacked, so they said, okay, they had a battalion of Gurkhas. So they said, with their battalion folks, all the Gurkhas were gathered. They were called in by their their manager, the battalion chief, and then he said that actually we'll be flying low, about 200 feet above the enemy region, and then you have to jump there and then fight and defeat them. So how many of you are ready? At that time, only half of the Gurkhas stepped forward. So now, this general, he was really perplexed. He thought that Gurkhas are very strong, willed fighters. How could they not all step 50%, stayed back, 50% move forward? So he was surprised. He asked, why is it that only 50% of you came forward? So the one, 50% of them, the half of the troop who was standing in the back, one soldier said, sir, we don't think that we can survive the fall of 200 feet. And at that time, the general understood. He said, no, don't worry. We will provide you parachutes, so you won't have to jump without parachutes, you will survive. Then those 50% also stepped forward. Now the general was surprised. He said, even understanding that I would not, thinking that a parachute may not be provided, 50% of the Gurkhas agreed to step forward. Now that is Kshatriya spirit. Another example we have been given is, Kshatriyas were very skilled at fighting, right? So this is a story I heard in my school time, that one Britisher, he came to know that this Gurkha, he's a very fast, very active, very agile person, and he fights with a hunter. Hunter is like a whip, a long whipping rope. And this general, he was feeling like, can he be more powerful than a gun? Means again, can he defeat a bullet? So he decided to have a duel with this Gurkha. And the Gurkha said, okay, so let's have the duel. And both of them came onto the field, and the general was holding this gun. And as soon as the bell rang, they have to strike, he shot the Gurkha. And Gurkha could hardly move his arm, right? And then he said, see, I defeated you. The Gurkha said, why don't you twist your head? And when the general twisted his hand went rolling down. Because as soon as the bell rang, the Gurkha was so fast that with his hunter, he had chopped off the neck of this general, and general had not even realized that his neck has been chopped off. So now that is Kshatriya spirit. Srila Prabhupada talks about another Kshatriya spirit story, where there used to be a Rajput king by the name Jaswant Singh. One day he went on a battlefield and he was defeated, and he came back on his horse, and he saw that the gates of his palace were locked. Right? Yes. So he asked the gatekeeper, why are the gates locked? They said, actually, the queen has asked us to lock the gate and not open it. He said, but I am the king. You should open the gate. Then they say, we have to take permission from the queen. And so when they asked, the queen asked, who has come? And then the messenger said, the king Jaswant Singh, he has come. She said, it cannot be. Jaswant will either win or will die on the battlefield. He would not be a coward. This is a pretender. And she refused to open the gate. And when the messenger revealed this response to Jaswant Singh, Jaswant understood that this is the spirit of Kshatrani, his wife, who is a Kshatrani, and so he went back to the battlefield and gave up his life fighting. So that is the true Kshatriya spirit, that when you are called out for battle, you don't turn your back on your enemies, you fight it with your full strength. But in this particular case, with the coming of Kali age, even many Kshatriyas, many kings actually, were losing it. Like the first incident itself, the minister killed his king and made his son the king. Now there are similar aspects have been given, and I'm going to quickly cover some of those aspects. But you would ask, like, how is it possible that in this Kali age, people, when they hear, oh, this person is, son of the Maharaj of Manipur or son of the Maharaj of so-and-so place, people regard the person very nicely. Well, when you read Srimad Bhagavatam, you realize that people are in illusion regard them very nicely, and you have to actually see their actions and their behavior. I can tell you for hours and hours about stories of some of the personalities we regard very highly, and again, this is because I went to the same school as some of them went to, and we know the stories about their past. So again, there are very amazing facts that make you wonder, how were they even born in such a high family? And then when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, we realize, oh, this is the influence. And people are just following the highly influential people, right? And they are considering that just because a person is born in a great family, he is great. That has become a criteria in today's world. And that is also because of the effect of Kali age. Shukdev Goswami in the later chapters would reveal in the 3rd chapter this to Parikshit Maharaj. Prayena alpayusha sabhya kalavasmin yuge jana manda sumanda matyo banda bhagyo pratata. So what is the characteristic of man born in this Kali age, in this age, is praya alpayu. Alpayu means short-lived. So men are short-lived, and kalavasmin. So kalaha, they are quarrelsome. Men are quarrelsome. And manda means lazy. Men are lazy. So manda matyo, they are not very intelligent. Srila Prabhupada used to use this term, poor fund of knowledge. They have a poor fund of knowledge. So when you look at the fund in your bank account, if you don't have enough fund to be able to meet your needs, that's called poor fund, right? So in this case, it is about knowledge. Manda bhagya, and they are unlucky. Why are they unlucky? Because they don't understand what's what is right, and they have forgotten their religious principles, and they are engaging in all kind of frivolous, fruitive activities. Manda bhagya upraduta, and they are constantly disturbed, because we talked about pravarga, that when men endeavor in fruitive results, Mother Earth as well as material nature, Mother Nature, both of them are causing them to get bewildered, and then man becomes fearful and finally meets his death. So we should be very careful that we should understand where the shelter is in this Kali age. And where is the shelter? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he reveals this secret. Hare Ram, Hare Ram eva kevalam, kala nashteva 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 gatiranyatha. Chanting of the holy name, chanting of the holy name, chanting of the holy name is the only way to be delivered in this Kali age, right? To overcome the influence of this fallen age, which is full of the darkness of ignorance. We already talked about this. That after Lord Krishna left, this material universe became dark because of the influence of ignorance, mode of ignorance. So people become very attached. Now we talked about attachment because there are two aspects, I and mine, aham mameti. Prahlad Maharaj talked about this. I leads to envy. So if somebody sees a person at a higher position, then he becomes envious of that person, thinking that I want to acquire that position, somehow kick him down and I get that position. And if this is materialistic mind, in delusion, being in darkness, and due to the mode of ignorance, they are thinking in this manner. Sometimes mode of passion also joins in. And when they are looking at someone who has taken their shelter, instead of making sure that these people are nicely taken care of in the right spirit, they exploit people. So today the tendency in this material world is people exploit other people, and people love things, inanimate things. So that is the sorry state, while we should be actually loving people and using things with the right purpose. And everything should be used in serving Lord Sri Krishna. So when we engage in serving Lord Sri Krishna, we become happy. So that is a simple secret. That's why we should constantly chant the holy name. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. That is the only shelter we have, Krishna consciousness. On July 10th or 11th of November of 1971, Srila Prabhupada, he flew from Calcutta to New Delhi. And at that time, many important politicians, including the mayor of Delhi, Mr. Hansraj Gupta, he came to see Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada sat on a small dais with all his books, and he identified that so much Krishna consciousness is spreading all abroad, means, in US, in UK, and even a seed is sown in Russia at that time. So again, he was saying to Mr. Hansraj Gupta, who was the mayor of New Delhi at that time, that because of your blessings, Srila Prabhupada, so again, he sees an influence because he knows that if he is able to influence an important person, others will follow. So he's saying, because this mayor, he had bought a set of Srimad Bhagavatam first canto before Srila Prabhupada left for US. Because of the blessings, I am able to spread all this, and the blessings of my Guru Maharaj. So he is saying yes, but he is also adding the important aspect, the blessings of his Guru Maharaj. So again, we seek blessings from Vaishnavas, and of course others, they can provide us facilities so that we can continue to spread, but we always take shelter of the Vaishnavas and be grateful for anyone who supports us in spreading Krishna consciousness. So that's the attitude, a humble attitude filled with gratitude and humility and gratefulness. Again, that is the mood a devotee has. And then Srila Prabhupada, he went with the mayor of Delhi, Mr. Hansraj Gupta, to his residence, and there were a lot of reporters, right? They are all taking pictures, and now they want to have an interview with Srila Prabhupada. And so one of the reporters asked, so can you show me God? Srila Prabhupada's his response normally used to be, do you have the eyes to see the God? But in this case, he said, even if you have the eyes, you won't be able to see him. Just like, because the reporter had given him another reference. He said, we can see Lalaji. Lalaji was a nickname for Mr. Hansraj Gupta. So they said, we can see Lalaji. Like that, can we see God as well? He said, well, you know that Lalaji is the mayor of Delhi. You know who he is. So you are able to recognize. So you should be able to recognize if God, if you see. If Lalaji goes out onto the street, meets a stranger who doesn't know Lalaji, will the stranger be able to regard him properly? He said, no, he will not be able to. So that's why Srila Prabhupada said, that's why you should understand, to be able to see God, you have to be in the right position to understand who is God, how great he is, how wonderful he is. Then you will be able to see God. And in this Kali age, Lord appears in three forms. He appears in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Puran, right? This is not different from Lord Sri Krishna. He appears in his Archa Vigraha form. And then third, last but not the least, is he appears in his name. So, Lord is not different from his name. Lord Krishna and his name Krishna are one, they are same. So that is very important. And here, Srila Prabhupada, as they are talking, sirens start, going out, because at that time there was a tussle between, because of East Bengal, East Pakistan, Pakistan and India were in conflict. So this siren was indicating that there is going to be an air raid from Pakistan Air Force. So at that time, the reporters said that, oh, this is such a sorry state, this is such a fearful time. Srila Prabhupada said, it is always fearful time. The whole life here is fearful time. If you go out of the house, is there a guarantee that you will come back? The reporter was pious. So he said, no, there is no guarantee. He said, see, that's why you should take to Krishna consciousness. Because by taking to Krishna consciousness, you will be engaging in devotional service. By taking to devotional service, you will make your life sublime, and you will understand, I am not this body, I am the spirit soul. And if you are performing devotional service, in this life, then after this life, you will continue performing devotional service. What is the secret? If you are smart, you know this secret. Smartavyo satatam Vishnu vismartavyo na jatuchit sarve vidhi nishedasyur etayoreva kinkaraha. Smartavyo satatam Vishnu. Always remember Krishna. Vismartavya na jati. Never forget Krishna. Sarve vidhi nishedasur etayor eva kinkara. All other rules and regulations are just subservient to these two principles. And what are these two principles? Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. And to be able to remember, one cannot just remember, out of the blue. One has to make an endeavor. One has to engage in devotional service. One has to advance in Krishna consciousness. So this is my appeal to all of you. Please take to the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Now let's quickly cover the various rulers who came in this material world. And there was a phase where Shudras became the rulers. So we'll cover quickly that particular aspect as well. So future kings have been discussed. And here, Puranjaya, he was ruling about 1000 years after Lord Krishna had left. So Lord Krishna was here 5000 years back. So about 4000 years back, Puranjaya was there, who was killed by his minister Shunaka. Right? And then there were 5 kings in the Pradyumna dynasty. Okay, yes. Who enjoyed as rulers of this earth for 138 years. Right? And then there were 10 kings in the Shashunaga dynasty. They enjoyed for 360 years. Then last Mahanadi, who begat the son named Nanda in the womb of a Shudra woman. So this Nanda was a very powerful, very influential king, but he was a Shudra by his character, by his influence as well, by his birth, influence and everything. So he appeared like a second Parshuram, and he tormented and annihilated the Kshatriya kings. So again, just like the Kali-yuga story we hear in Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, who had become very powerful, and he was even worse than Shudra, Kali-yuga, Yavanas, even worse than Shudras. But he had become so powerful that he went on to challenge Lord Sri Krishna when he heard about the instructions. He heard about the description from Devashi Narad, that Lord Krishna is so powerful, so beautiful, so wonderful. He said, okay, I will win over him. So that is the mentality. So sometimes it has been, Acharyas say that he was like the second Parshuram because he annihilated the Kshatriya kings, which was actually a very sorry story because from that point onwards, the kings that appeared were all Shudras by nature. So Nanda and his sons, they ruled for about 10 years. And then Nanda was betrayed and challenged and dethroned by who? Chanakya Pandit, right? And Chanakya Pandit established Chandragupta Maurya as the king. So when Shukdev Goswami is saying, he is always referring to the future sense because this is going to happen in the future. So can you imagine? He's telling us what is going to happen in the future. So hearing this 12th canto is very important for us so that we understand what are the influences of this current times and what is going to happen in the future so that we can be ready and we can take shelter at the right time, right? If you know that this place is going to be a place of danger, then you will take proper shelter, right? You want to make proper arrangement. You want to be secure. You want to be fearless. And simple way of becoming fearless is taking to Krishna consciousness, which starts simply by the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So Mauryas, they ruled for 137 years. So the sons and grandsons of Chandragupta Maurya, so they continued ruling. And then 10 Shanga kings, they ruled for more than 112 years. And so various kings kept coming up as being established. Minister Vasudev, he killed his lusty, debauchee king, Devabhiti, and then he ruled righteously. So this was the last of the Shunga kings who was ruling. And at that time, Kanva dynasty started, and this dynasty ruled the earth for 345 years. And the last of the Kanvas, Shusharma, he was murdered by his own servant, Bali. who was a low-class Shudra of the Andhra race. So the 30 kings, they will enjoy, means coming from him, the earth, they enjoyed for a total of 456 years. So you see how it's continuously advancing. And Abhira race started, ruling the city of Avrabati, and then the 10 Garbhis. After that, 16 kings of Kanakas, they ruled. And Shukdev Goswami is saying in the future tense, and these Abhiras, Garbhis and Kanakas, they will enjoy the earth for 1099 years. And then the Maulyas will rule for 300 years, and the king of Kilkila will rule for the total of 106 years. Foolish king Vishwapurji will maintain all the citizens in ungodly manners. So the king at that time from Kilkila was, very fallen, and he would, usurp others' properties, and even was so lusty, he wanted to enjoy others' wives. So he was, in this manner, he was going on, and he was killed by his own, he was disrupting the Kshatriya order. At that time, of course, when the administrator is bad, all other Varnas also affected. So at that time, even the Brahmanas living in provinces like Saurashtra, Avanti, and Abhir, Asura, Arbuda and Malwa, they forgot their regulative principles. And the members of the royal family, royal order of these palaces, they were no better than Shudras. The land along the Sindhu river, as well as the city of Chandrabhaga County and Kashmir, today we talk about Kashmir, it will be ruled by Shudras. So this is what Shukdev Goswami reveals. Fallen Brahmanas and meat eaters, not just Shudras but also fallen Brahmanas, who are literally called Brahman Bandhu in the Shastras. They don't have any Brahmanical qualities anymore. So having given part to the Vedic civilization, they gave up this path of Vedic civilization, and they engage in all kind of frivolous activities just to enjoy this material world. So man in this material world becomes very attached. And this we see from a story of Akbar and Birbal. Once Akbar and Birbal, they used to go out, they used to take the dress of common populace, citizens, and they would wander around hearing about what's going on in the kingdom. So once as they were walking, Akbar saw that, a wife called her husband, who was a giant, big-looking man, and the wife was a short, thin lady. She called her husband, very loud voice, and the husband came and she slapped him. And Akbar was shocked. He's like, Birbal, how could this be? He's such a powerful man, such a big man, and such a small, meek-looking lady. His wife, she slapped him. He didn't say anything. Birbal said, what can we do, Jahapana? Everyone is too attached. So Akbar was surprised. So he called all the men. He said, let me prove it. That is not the case. He said, all of those who follow the order of your wife, go to the left side. So they all gathered on one side. He asked them. Except for one man, everybody moved there. So Akbar looked at Birbal. He said, see, one person is agreeing with me. So Birbal said, let's ask him. And Birbal asked him, so my dear sir, why did you move to the left side when Emperor Akbar asked you? If you are, following your wife, then you should move. He said, actually, my wife has asked me to stay away from crowds. Defeats the purpose. So in this Kali age, we should be thinking that every living entity is a Vaishnava. Even the wife is a Vaishnava, and the children are Vaishnava. And we should try to dovetail everything in serving Lord Sri Krishna. Even people around us, we should lovingly treat them so that everyone takes to Krishna consciousness. And we should make it wonderful experience. Susukham kartum avyayam. Lord Krishna says it is performed joyfully. So with this, we'll end today's class. Please understand that at this particular time or any time, simple shelter is taking to the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna, and we start simply with the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Gantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anant Koti Vaishnav Vind Ki Jai, Nitai Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Please.